Hi, I'm Ted Wolfe, presented by Guidewise. Welcome to the Implementors podcast, where we connect you to the stories and insights of people who have mastered implementation. Why? Because ideas are easy, but implementation is hard. Join us as we uncover the secrets of successful implementation so you can conquer your implementation struggles. Hello, I'm Ted Wolfe, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the Implementors podcast presented by Guidewise, where we focus on the topic of implementation because we believe that ideas are easy, but implementation is hard. And today I have a special guest, Gene Marks. He's the president of the Marks Group. Gene has a very extensive business experience and business in the area of CRMs or customer relationship management software. So they are in business since 1994, and they have over 600 active clients. So welcome, Gene. I look forward to our conversation today.
Ted, thank you for having me on. And by the way, I love the name of your podcast, The Implementors. I mean, it is so right on for anybody that's in small business or technology.
Well, thank you for being here in person of your experience. I'd like to just mention, if I can, you're published in Forbes, The Guardian, Washington Post, The Hill, The Philadelphia Inquirer, Entrepreneur. I have learned and followed you in 21 Hats podcast, and you you wrote a book, The Complete Idiot's Guide to Successful Outsourcing. So you also are active in Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and you have over 600,000 followers. My congratulations to you and welcome.
Thanks.
So we're going to talk about CRMs today and what might make a CRM effort succeed or fail. So let's talk a little bit about your business experience. Why would somebody want to bring in a CRM to begin with?
Well, CRMs, this is customer relationship management. And for those of you guys that are listening, there's some well-known names you probably have heard of, like Salesforce or Dynamics or Zoho or, Insightly, Sugar. These applications provide both short-term and long-term benefits to companies, Ted. So short-term, they really provide two big things. One is they make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. So anybody that's in your community, anybody you're dealing with in sales are getting some type of a follow-up. It might be a call, or it might be that they're added to a newsletter. And then the second short-term benefit is that nobody in your company looks like a dope when they have a CRM system, because you're sharing information and notes and history and emails, and that's the way you service your customers. So those are the short-term benefits. The long-term benefits is, and I'm seeing this more and more with my clients, Ted, people, when they exit businesses, and we're all getting older, a lot of people thinking about succession planning, when people exit businesses, data has value. And my clients that have really good, tight CRM databases with all the information about their customers, prospects, communities, products, whatnot, they're getting higher valuations for their businesses because people want to buy that data from them. So CRM it's an investment that people are making because it has very much short-term value and very much long-term value to it.
Okay, well, we believe also a good CRM helps you guide the business through an intelligent aspect versus a guesswork type of way of doing things. Sure. So not all CRM implementations are successful. Let's talk some of the big obstacles that people have to overcome or what they can overcome in the implementation of a CRM. What do you think the top reason might be in your mind, your experience?
I have a few reasons, and by the way, Ted, so we have 600 active clients. We've been involved in hundreds of CRM implementations. We've had some successful ones, and man, have we had some big disasters as well. I mean, profanity, people yelling at each other, tears. It was the Game of Thrones type of failures.
Yes.
Biggest reason why. There's a few, but my biggest reason why is lack of an administrator, lack of a person. Okay. In the end, a CRM system is nothing more than a database, regardless of what Microsoft or Salesforce or anybody it's just a database. Somebody internally has got to own the data. They have to make sure that it's right. They have to make sure it's up to date. They have to make sure it's accurate, complete, and they have to have the resources, the training, and also have the ability to kick people in the nuts to make sure that they're doing what they got to do to keep this data up to, the way it should be. And a lot of companies
So they need an owner. They need an owner, correct?
Because guys like us,
Okay.
like we implement CRM systems and we charge by the hour. And like we're not your owners, we're like consultants. I mean, we deserve every bit of bad, you flack that you get as a consultant. We come up with the big ideas. We help customize and develop and all that good stuff. But in the end, somebody's got to drive the car. Somebody's got to, run with that system. And people don't, they don't think to invest in that person to do just that. And I have had CRM systems that have just wildly failed because they didn't have the right person. But we had one, it was a big hospital system. It was like 10 years ago. And they come from crazy places, Ted. Like that we were implementing this for like 100 people. And the owner, the administrator, was this little old lady. I mean, she was like in her early 60s. And I remember thinking like, this is going to be a disaster. I mean, there's no way. Turns out everybody was terrified of this woman. So she got her arms around what needed to be done and she barked and yelled and screamed and people did what they had to do to make sure they were using the system. So the owner, the administrator doesn't have to be an IT genius or a tech genius. And it might come from a pretty a source that you might not think. But somebody's got to own the data.
So if I own the business or I'm a key decision maker in the business, how do I position someone like that for success?
So you have to, first of all, identify who that person's going to be. Sometimes it might be, and it's going to be a cost to you, by the way, because whether it's somebody that you're already employing, that person's going to have to take, I don't know, a half a day, 2 days a week out of administrating the system. So that's a cost, or you might have to hire somebody to do this part-time or full-time. So for starters, you've got to step up and you've got to prepare to spend for that person to do what they got to do. And you got to be prepared to provide that person with resources. You got to send them to conferences, get them trained. If you have an outside consulting firm, you want to make sure that firm, you've got them on contract so they can back up your administrator. Super important. But then mainly the other big thing is you want to make sure that your user community knows that when the administrator is speaking, she's speaking on your behalf, So we had this project. You're based in Lancaster, right? So okay,
yes.
So we had this project out it was out in upstate Pennsylvania, and it was this manufacturing company, and it was about a 50 user CRM system, and the owner of the business had an administrator, spent all this money with the administrator, spent the money for us to implement it. Set it up, and then the users didn't play by the rules. They weren't doing. They kept doing things the old way. They were ignoring it. They were blowing off the system, and the administrator was pulling her hair out. And the owner of the business was like letting him do it. It was like, oh well, if you say it's hard, or okay, whatever. And the whole system was a huge disaster. It never got off the ground. So what he should have done is he should have been 100% behind that owner of the administrator of the system. And made sure that people knew that, it's going to be that person's way or the highway. And for business owners that have that self-confidence to do that, they wind up having more success with their CRM systems.
Okay, so you mentioned that one of the things to position the owner or the administrator for success is making sure they have the ability to take the time they need. You mentioned half a day up to maybe a day, 2 days a week. What would they do with that time?
So first of all, the more time that they're spending is good news for you, because it means you've got more people that are using the system and there's more requests. So I want to make sure it's a good thing if they're spending more time. So what would they do? First of all, they would be wiping the noses of your salespeople, and they'd be diapering your customer service people. Okay. They would be providing all training they'd be answering all questions. They would be taking ad hoc requests, because I'm a sales guy, so we're idiots. If we want to send out an email to everybody with blue eyes and green hair who's an Eagles fan, your salespeople are most likely not going to be the people that are set to do that, nor should they. So you've got the administrator that should run with that ball once they get the instructions of the salesperson. If the owner needs specific reports, a pipeline report, an open status report, an activity, whatever, it should be the administrator who creates and runs those reports and set them up. If different people in management are like, is there any way we can do this faster? Or when we bring in a new customer, can we have this action happen or that action happen? Or when we come back from a conference, Can we make sure there are these 4 things that go on so we didn't waste all of our money on this conference we were at? The administrator makes sure that he or she sets up automation and does that in the system. So it adds and it adds and it adds to itself. And by the way, and you asked, so I'm yakking, sometimes people want to integrate that system with another system. So the administrator, I'm not saying the administrator has to be a super developer or technical person. That administrator should oversee the outside developer who might be writing some code between the two so that they can get it to work right. And then when people come and leave, when they leave the company, when they join the company, the administrator should be there for onboarding and offboarding into the system as well. All of those things. And the busier they are, the better.
Okay. So then let's say that the administrator's doing all that work. They're getting everything prepped behind the scenes. They're laying out, I'm going to say, sequencing programs for touching people periodically with emails, things like that. But then the end users, the salespeople, the customer service people just don't want to use the system.
And everybody has that. It's the number one problem with CRM systems. So I've got some solutions to that I've learned the hard way, by the way, the hard way. So let me give you a few of them. First of all, one of the best internal controls, and I'm an accountant talking here if you haven't figured this out by the looks of me here. We are the best internal controls for a database, because this is just a database, is reports. So what we have found that works really well with our clients with CRM systems is that they get rid of the spreadsheets and they rely on their CRM system for some key reports to help manage the group. Pipeline report, open sales report, an activity report, a lost sales report. I can name a few. So management of the company is getting these reports every week, and they're using them to hopefully manage sales and customer service. And it's all coming out of the CRM system. There's no spreadsheets. Well, if salespeople or customer service people aren't doing what they have to do, it's going to show up in the reports. And when there's blank spaces and blank, if I'm a manager and I'm trying to run my team based on these reports, and I've got one guy there that's like not doing what they got to do, and because that I'm missing information, and my boss is going to be angry with me for that, you can damn well bet that I'm going to be after that person saying, you got to do what you got to do in the system so that I get my data. I don't care about your problems. I got my problems, and I need data in my system to run it. So reports is a really, really big way to do this. Now, having said that, there are some people have salespeople. You must have seen this, Ted, yourself. You got people that produce, like, this guy's a great sales guy. He just doesn't know how to turn on a TV, And you don't want to lose people like that. So there's got to be a middle ground. And we did this once with, we did a project years ago with Dietz and Watson. And it was a CRM system, great people. They, this back at this time, Dietz and Watson, for those of you guys watching or listening, they sell like deli meats. So their salespeople are like literally men with cigars and hats driving around to delis and dropping off pastrami, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And they put in a CRM system. It was their first one ever. And of course, these guys didn't want anything to do with it. You know what they did? They hired a college kid and they set up a voicemail box. And they said, listen, Frank, we know you're not going to get into this CRM system, but we do need this information, like who you called on today. So just on your way home, call this number and leave a voicemail message, what you did that day. And then the college kid at $10 an hour or whatever it was at the time, transcribed that into the CRM system, And then the sales manager had her data to run her group. So you can meet people halfway, even if they're not technically savvy people. But the key is getting that data in the system. And so reports are the way to do it. And a little hand-holding also helps.
And what about when you have the administrator that does the work, so the implementation has a nice plan, time-wise, resources they need, they're investing their time to do it, they're getting people's attention, they're trying to show them the value, so people begin to adopt it and use it, but they don't know how to use the reports to drive the business.
So
how do you help them with that?
Well, so first of all, if you're a manager and if I had a manager that didn't know what reports they need to run their team, then that manager probably wouldn't be working for me for that long.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody that has experience in sales, customer service, financial management, HR management, we've all got order management, inventory. We all know what numbers that we need. So I don't consider that to be as much of a problem. I think it has to be driven from management to the administrator. Every year, I get like these 3 or 4 dream clients, Ted. It'll always be some grizzled sales manager who's been doing this for 100 years. And they'll be like, hey, Gene, I just switched jobs. I'm now working for this company. I got 8 people that report to me. We're going to use your CRM system because that's the only one I know, and it's fine. But I need you to come in here, get it set up, and I need these 3 reports running out of that thing in the next couple of weeks so I can manage my team. Like, they know exactly. Like, these 3 reports with this information, this data, and I want it running this way. And then, we work with the administrator, say, okay, this is what the guy wants. So, we're going to get it set up for that person. It really has to be coming from management.
So, in other words, an obstacle to implementation would be not defining what information and how you're going to use it in the business before you start or even select the CRM.
You hit it right on the head. You're absolutely right. And if you're an administrator and you're like put in charge of a Salesforce system or a CRM system, whatever, you got to turn to the management team and be like, hey, guys, what do you want out of this system? What do you want from this? Okay, like give me what your takeaways are here. You want, when this happens, that happens. You want this report every week. You want to make sure that when somebody goes to our website, they fill out a form, this gets added into the system and this gets followed up on. Like, come on, you know what I mean? Like, give me specific deliverables as to what you want. And again, if you're dealing with an experienced sales or customer service or HR man, whatever, they should be able to tell you this is what we need from the system. And then the administrator, their job is just to implement. I mean, that's what you're all about. And then so you throw the ball to the administrator, and the administrator goes and does their thing. And then the administrator is going to be like, okay, I need training myself, so I'm up to speed. I need to have an outside, expert in the system on hand in case I'm spinning wheels and need questions answered, So give me those resources, and then a good administrator runs with the ball.
Okay, you have a good administrator, they're running with the ball, the reports are coming out. Let's just say that management doesn't use the reports to make decisions or guide their people. And that leads to people saying, well, you never look at what I'm doing, so why should I do it?
Yeah. So when you asked earlier, like, what's the most, the most powerful way or the best way to get people to use the system? I gave, examples of having reports coming out of the system. But if reports are coming out of the system and nobody's looking at them, then nobody's going to use the system.
That's it.
So the reports are, I guess I'm inferring by saying if those reports are coming out, it's because you've got management that's actually looking at those reports and using them to run the business and run their teams. And if they're not, and by the way, before you spend money on a CRM system, I mean, Zoho costs like $40 a month to use, $400 a month for 10 users. Plus you're going to be spending $5-10 on implementation, external costs, plus internal costs. If you're not going to use the data coming out of the system and you don't understand what you're buying, don't do it. Just don't buy it. Invest in something else. It's got to have an ROI.
So I'm new to business, we'll say. I just don't know the benefits of a CRM or where to even go begin to implement or choose one. But all my peers and competitors have them. How do you help somebody, or what would they do to begin to select, quote unquote, the right CRM for them?
So for starters, there's a few different things. What you said earlier was 100% right. You do need to know what you want out of the system. You can't just buy something without knowing why you're buying it. And if you're clueless about a CRM system, then you need to read about it and talk to your friends and colleagues and people in the industry that are using CRM systems. Like, what are you guys doing with it? Like, do I care or not? So number one is you have to make sure that you know what you're buying. Otherwise, don't buy it because that's silly. Assuming that you now understand what a CRM can do, and assuming you're like, wow, yeah, if I had that in my business, man, that would make a big difference, Then it's time to start looking at what your options are and what's out there. I can tell you this much, Ted. There's big box CRMs and small box CRMs. So, I deal with mostly small and mid-sized businesses. So there's hundreds of CRMs out there, but there's a good, 15 to 20 that are like main players that are out there that a lot of people use. And if you're a bigger business, like say you've got more than 50 or 100 users, there's like that's for Salesforce and Dynamics, and some of those other ones come in. One thing I can tell you is that if you're a small and mid-sized business, for sure, if you're looking at like those 10 to 20 competitors that are out there, I'm just telling you, Ted, they pretty much do the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 2023. I mean, there used to be a time, I mean, you and I are a similar age. I mean, you remember you would have the spreadsheet and people checking off the features and that, because it's all cloud-based. If Zoho comes out with some new incredible feature, trust me when I tell you, Sugar's going to look right at them and come out with the same feature 2 weeks later. So we tell our clients, do not get all, crazy about features and functionality. The key is whether or not there's 3 keys to a CRM. First of all, whether you like the look and feel of it, because some people buy Hondas, some people buy Toyotas, some people buy, you know what I mean? Like, assuming that they all get you to your destination, you just have to enjoy the drive. So hopefully you like the look and feel of it. That's number 1. Number 2 is you're going to need to get some outside help, most likely. So if it's implemented the right way, that's going to make the big difference. So if you're working with a good expert, they don't even have to be doing everything for you, but they should at least be pointing you in the right direction. Like, well, if you're going to set this up for a service business, you should make sure to have these fields and use these functions and whatever. Manufacturing, do this, do that. So you want to make sure you've got a good, advisor or consultant that works along with you, at the very least, to point you the right way. And third, if you're implementing, a CRM system, you just have to have a long-term goal with it. You know what I mean? You have to know that you're going to be in it for a while, and you're going to be, dedicated to it. It's going to be a major, major part of your business. And if you go into it with that attitude, because you're never going to find the perfect system, but if you go into it with that attitude, you'll be able to conform it to whatever you need to do. And along those lines, if it's going to be a long-term part of your business, I talked before about the consultant is very, very important. The features, not so much, but the vendor, the platform is very important. So you want to make sure they're going to still be in business 2 years from now. If you're going to be in it for the long term, you want to make sure they are as well.
So we believe intelligent guidance leads to intelligent business. How do I find the right guide to help me choose a CRM, implement the CRM, and actually monetize and get value out of it? What are the criteria I look for in that intelligent
So first
guide?
of all, you're asking the worst person to answer this question, because I can't even, I am so bad at, I don't know how you are, like, I'm so bad at recruiting and hiring people. Like, I can't even make the right decisions with employees. It's always like a crapshoot for me. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's the same thing when you're dealing with like an outside consulting firm. I mean, in the end, it's going to be like, a gut feel. So you can do, there's some basics that you should do. Number 1 is you do want to make sure that either the consultant, and by the way, you can find these guys on LinkedIn, you can find them on Facebook, you can find them on Craigslist if you want to also hire a homicidal maniac. You can find them if you go to the partners, though, of the vendors. You can ask them, like, what partners do you have that specialize in it? So first, you want to make sure that they are at least certified in the products that you sell, that you're getting. Like, if you're going to get Salesforce, you do want to work with somebody that's got Salesforce certifications. That's sort of, the first step, and that's fine. You're going to want to talk to referrals, so that's also fine as well. And then basically you're going to have to get to know the person and start them off very, very slow in what they do and see if you get along. Some people click and some people don't. One way that I found has been pretty good is if you're looking, say you decide to go forward with Sugar CRM, just for argument's sake, and you like it, if you go on like Indeed or Monster.com, one of the recruiting sites, and if you search for Sugar CRM, you're going to come across companies that are advertising for people that, they would like somebody to join the that's got experience with Sugar CRM. Well, that tells you that they're using Sugar CRM. So you might call up the sales manager at that company and say, hey, I found you on Indeed. No, I'm not looking for a job, but I see you're using Sugar. We're considering Sugar as well. First of all, what do you think of the product? And secondly, do you have a partner that you're using, and would you recommend them? And that way you're not getting any kind of spoon-fed fake, reference. It's somebody out there, and people will talk. People like to talk.
Okay. So what do you look for when you're in the middle of a problem and you feel that you're out there or you're all by yourself, you don't know how to do it, everything you're trying doesn't seem to work? How do you find a new guide? How do you get out of that endless loop, race to the bottom, so to speak, of this was a terrible investment, we never should have done it?
So first of all, I would really resist saying it's a terrible investment and we shouldn't have done it, because in most cases, what's probably terrible is you using the software or whoever implemented it.
Fair.
If you're buying software nowadays, particularly cloud-based platforms, in particular one of the more mainstream ones, there's such an ecosystem. There's so much more flexible. There are so many more tools for integration. It's just, before you start pointing the fingers at the software, because I hate that, look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, maybe it's me. Okay. Like I'm the one that's resisting this or whatever. Plus, if you've invested money in a platform and gotten people trained on it, whenever, the last thing you want to do is throw it out. I mean, you really, really got to try to make it work. So to make it work, you want to try and find somebody that's going to help you, which gets back to finding that consultant.
Right.
And so if I was using Insightly, it's another CRM that's out there, and say I'm like really unhappy with it, and I'm not, blah, blah, blah. First of all, I would be talking to Insightly and I'd be telling him, hey man, you want me to keep paying your monthly fees? I need to get answers to these questions. So that's the first place I would start, is getting the vendor, talk to me and make me happy, or tell me what I'm missing here. Number two is, I would probably go on to LinkedIn or Craigslist or whatever. I would try to find an Insightly consultant. I'd, take $1,000, $500, a few $100, because they all charge anywhere from, I don't know, $75 to $300 an hour. But say, can you take a look at my system? And I'm going to tell you what issues I'm having. But can you make some recommendations? I mean, if you're not getting the answers you need from the vendor, and you're not getting the answers that you need from a consultant or two, then okay, maybe it is the platform. But before you do that, give the platform the benefit of the doubt and really try and wring out all information you can from their ecosystem, because it may very well be you is the problem, not necessarily the platform.
Yeah, I think you hit it right there when you said you need to look at yourself. Maybe the problem is me.
Yeah.
And then straighten out the organization and review the basics again, going back. Let's take it just a little switch. And let's say in the very beginning, you said you're looking to exit and people want to buy that database. What are some of the benefits, the real value that it creates in the business, that an owner of a business can look at and say, this is a prime investment. We have to make it work, because here is how we're all going to benefit from it.
Well, I would say, Ted, if I was going to buy your firm, okay, the last person I want around going forward is you. No offense. Okay.
No.
And you're the last guy that wants to be around. If you're going to sell your business, you're selling it so you can, spend time with your grandkids or golf or whatever, you don't even want to enjoy life.
Yeah.
So the more that your database can serve to accomplish that goal, the better your database is. So, there are some people that keep all their data and information in their heads. And those are the people that wind up working 5 years after they had hoped to bow out of their business, because to transfer that knowledge and data to the successor of their business. And there are some people that systemize and put processes in and put data, create data environments so that we don't need you around. If I need to find out about this customer, their history, or what they bought, or what's in their heads, I can get it from my CRM system or my accounting system, or whatever the system might be. So, if I can see a database like that where you're involved as little as possible, I'll pay you more for that database. I think that's the bottom line.
So what I'm hearing you say is it'll make your business more of an intelligent business, because you make better decisions, you got the data, and that's what somebody wants to pay you for. That's the value.
And I'm going to add to that, because, as you and I are talking, there's been such obviously huge groundswell in AI, chat GPT, and all that kind of stuff. And look, you and I we can't have this conversation right now without talking about AI, mainly because if you don't have AI in the title of this conversation, nobody's going to find you, because everybody's using AI in everything, because it's the new iPhone. So, but AI is real and it's coming. And the thing that I think is critical about, automating your business and really using your data intelligently with AI needs good data. And so if your data is shit, your automation is going to be shit. So when people are talking about all this great stuff and things are going to be done with with artificial intelligence, it's only going to be done when your data is good enough for it. Otherwise, you're not going to trust it. And I think that's going to be like a huge opportunity for all of us in the technology world, is what can we do to help our clients really have great, tight, accurate, complete databases so they can actually rely on their AI to cut back on, employee hours and increase productivity. So that's important. That's the important thing.
In the basic application of a CRM, how do you think AI will actually change the use of and how you day-to-day use a CRM?
It's going to eliminate sales and marketing and service people, period. It's going to eliminate them.
Okay.
It is smart people won't be eliminated. They'll find ways to leverage this technology and make themselves more valuable. But people that are just kind of going through the motions, if anything can be duplicated because it's a repetitive process, AI is going to take care of it. I'll give you an example. I wrote in Forbes not just about Chat GPT, but the next wave is called Auto GPT. What Chat GPT is, it's a conversational chat bot. So you go onto it, you ask it questions, it'll respond back to you, and then you can ask it more questions, and you go back and forth, and that's all good. Auto GPT will take that same technology and perform tasks based on that technology. And as you and I are speaking, every single CRM vendor worth their salt, other technology platforms, they're investing in Auto GPT type technology. So you can say, hey, Salesforce, pick everybody with blue eyes and green hair who's an Eagles fan, send them an email about our latest product offering. And then depending on the response, respond to them in this way, and this way. You're going to tell it to do that. And then the email goes out, the campaign, people will respond. And based on the respond, your automated AI will pick that up and respond back to them. It will be smart enough to recognize when somebody wants to speak to a human, and will delegate that over to a human. But the rest of the time will answer the questions or send the information that they need, or direct them to the right place to make that purchase or go to the next step. All that will be done right now in place of a sales or a customer service person doing that.
Mm-hmm. And can that auto AI work today? Is that in production today?
So that's a great question. So no, for a few reasons. One is that it's still early days for a lot of this stuff. It's still inaccurate. It's still biased and incomplete. And also, getting back to what we were talking about before, our data is shit. So using our data with that stuff, that's not going to be good either. Well, there's a ways to go before, we can reliably do that kind of, stuff, but it's coming. And I think if I have any message, I've been speaking a lot, when I speak to groups and industry groups about AI, my advice has just been like, don't invest a penny in AI because your software vendors are doing that for you. I mean, those guys are spending billions on AI.
Right.
You should be beating them up and asking them what's coming and how can I be using this stuff? Because they want you to keep paying their monthly fees. So they've got all the incentive for you to use all the AI and the automation they're coming out with. I think if I was going to spend any money, I think our responsibility as business owners is to tighten up our data. So, the vendors will provide the tools, but there's only so much they can do about our data. We've got to be able to tighten that up. And again, getting back to my accounting background, I mean, our books and records are hopefully somewhat clean and tightened up. All of our systems need to be the same way if we truly want to benefit from AI.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong if I summarize what you just said about AI, particularly when you said salespeople are going to be eliminated because today's, I'm going to say, generative AI basically can answer all the sales questions that a salesperson would. Ask it a question, it's going to come back and give you a response. So that's how you basically would program your system so that it can educate people.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, I'm a business owner and I look at my Salesforce and I think 85% of my Salesforce, or 80%, 80-20 rule, 80% of them are going to get wiped out. So what do I start training my people on so that in salespeople, so they don't get wiped out, and we're able to bring in this new auto AI once it's cooked and baked and ready to get to perform? What do I do with them?
It's a good question. First of all, I would definitely, right now, all you can be doing is telling your salespeople that they should be reading and getting up to speed on AI in general, but also about things like ChatGPT. And there are plenty of great accounts that I can recommend, like on Twitter, even on LinkedIn, of people that are coming up with updates and news and information about AI all the time. I think that they have a responsibility as professionals to stay current on the tools that will help them do their job. So they need to be doing that. And it would be an interesting exercise. That's an interesting exercise to do only because if you get the salespeople that resist it or afraid of it or whatever, okay, then you know in advance that, okay, these are probably the people that are not going to be sticking around for that long once this happens. But it's almost like preparing you, Ted, for like the metaverse. I mean, we heard that whole thing a couple of years ago. I do think the metaverse is absolutely coming once we have regular glasses that we can use to access it, and not those crazy ski goggles that Apple just released. It's coming, and the AI automation is coming, but there is some time. So other than just telling your salespeople that they need to be up to speed on what's coming and be prepared for it and keep that open mind, you're not going to know what to train them on or what to do until the actual tools appear. And then you're going to see who's going to embrace them or not. But once these tools start appearing, you should see, Ted, what Microsoft's got coming down the road and Google with Google Bard. Just think about Google leveraging all of our information in our Google Apps and Gmail to perform, reach out to customers and responses to people and customize messaging and communications and scheduling. It's really amazing stuff that's coming. So until it comes and until we know about it, we want to at least keep our eyes open, but be ready to start training our people once we know what we're training them on.
Okay. So last section here, I want to go through what I call a lightning round. I'm going to give one or two key words, and I want you to respond, if you can, in short bursts of here's how that CRM would help you in that area. So first one, productivity of your salespeople.
So automation doesn't necessarily have to be with AI, but there are already automated processes within CRM systems that you can set up to automatically do things that will save web chats, responding to web requests, for example, responding basically when certain activities or actions are scheduled that a salesperson doesn't have to spend time doing.
Okay, the CRM will work while you play.
So the CRM is doing all of that stuff I just mentioned 24/7. So it can be responding to customer questions, sending out brochures, routing requests to the right person, sending out information all times in the night, and even to people all around the world.
Okay, the CRM has a better memory than you.
The CRM is using data that we don't, as humans, we don't have the capacity to remember everything. It's the reason why when you go and you're about to, a customer calls, you pull up their history to look at who they spoke to last and when you spoke to them about last and what notes were taken and whether their kid got out of prison recently or what their birthday is. The CRM system is maintaining all that data that we don't have to maintain. We couldn't maintain it in our heads anyway.
Okay, last but not least, you get to the point where you want to exit. You either want to find a new career or you want to sell your business. How's the CRM going to help you?
CRM, if it has great data, it's going to provide a huge amount of value to your business. So hopefully when you sell your business, you've got somebody that recognizes that and pays you for it.
Okay. So in all candor and openness, we are a client of the Marks Group, and we are extremely satisfied with the guidance and the help that we have received in implementing our CRM. So I speak from firsthand knowledge here.
Thank you.
Gene, I want to thank you for being on the podcast today. Excellent information and guidance you're giving us. And you come from a wealth of knowledge, so that means you are giving intelligent guidance. Thank you again for your time, and appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Ted. It was great talking with you. Hopefully we'll talk again. Okay?
Are you an implementer who wants to share your stories and insights on our podcast? If so, reach out to us at studio@implementors.io. Hi, Ted Wolf here. I want to thank you for joining us for this Implementors video. The Implementors podcast is presented by Guidewise, where we, along with our vetted member community, recognize that ideas are easy, but implementation is hard. To learn more about getting things done with Guidewise, please visit us at guidewise.io. And to conquer your implementation struggles, please like and share this video and subscribe to our channel. Happy implementing.